This is the yarn for today's project, Bernat Blanket Big, and for the blanket 44 inches wide and 60 inches long, you will need 8 skeins of this yarn. Here is the hook, 25 millimeters. This is what I'm going to work with, and usually I hold the hook in this way. However, working with such thick yarn and such large size hook, I realized it's really impossible to hold it this way. It is way more comfortable to hold it this way from the above, but even this is gonna be quite challenging. So I start with 24 chains. Here is my slip knot. And now I'm going to make 24 chains. Yarn over and pull through, that's 1. Yarn over and pull through, that's 2. Yarn over, pull through, 3, 4, 5. Here I have my chain. I have 24 chains, and now I'm going to start the first row. I'm going to make a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. We don't count the chain on the hook, we start counting from the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4. So over here I will make a double crochet, and these 3 skip chains will also count as a double crochet. So yarn over, I insert the hook, draw up a loop, yarn over, I have 2 loops, yarn over, and now I finish my double crochet. So here I have 2 double crochets so far. These 3 skip chains count as my first double crochet, and I just made the second one. And now I will work a double crochet into each chain across. And usually when I crochet, I hold the hook like this, and the yarn is very easy to grab, do yarn over, pull through. And with this hand, I usually just hold my work piece. But working with this yarn, I'm gonna constantly use this hand to do yarn over and help with this strand of yarn. So yarn over into the next chain, insert the hook, draw up the loop. With my hand, I do yarn over, pull it through 2 loops. Again, helping with my left hand, I do yarn over and finish my double crochet. So now I have 2 double crochets finished. I do the same thing, yarn over and into the next chain. I work a double crochet. And it does take some effort, and it takes longer to make 1 double crochet, but it also creates a big piece right away. And that's how I continue crocheting, working a double crochet into each chain across. And this is what I get. And I'm gonna continue crocheting off the camera, and then I'll show you my first finished row. And here it is, my first finished row. And the challenge here is also to keep the tension the same and to get the double crochets look nice and even. So that's another challenge of making this blanket. Even though the pattern itself is very simple, we are only making double crochets here, this blanket does have some challenges. And in this first row I have 22 double crochets, because I started with 24 chains, so the amount of double crochets is going to be 2 fewer than the amount of your starting chains. Now I turn my work and I'm ready to start row number 2. I started with 3 chains, which will count as my first double crochet. 1, 2, 3. Now I will make a double crochet into the second double crochet. This is the first one. I'm skipping it because these 3 chains correspond to this first stitch. And over here, under these 2 loops on the top, that's where I will insert the hook. So over there, I make a double crochet. And here I have 2 stitches of the next row. Yarn over and into the next double crochet. Under the 2 loops on the top, I work a double crochet. Again, I really wish this hook was longer. It is quite short, and if it was this much longer, it would be way more comfortable to hold it and work with it. But we have what we have. So I have 4 stitches, and that's how I continue working this row, just making a double crochet into each double crochet. And I do recommend taking frequent breaks because it is very challenging and it does put some strain on your hands and even on your arms. I'll see you at the end of the row. And here I am at the end of the row, and over here this last stitch of the previous row is actually turning chain. So I'm going to work a double crochet into this top chain of this last turning chain. So yarn over, insert the hook, pull over, yarn over, and it's done. So here I have 2 rows finished, and when you crochet your double crochets, try to make these chains when the double crochet is finished a bit more loose, because I see that my row over here is a bit tighter than it is over here. So I need to remember, and I need to try to make these loops a bit more loose. And the next row is gonna be the same. I turn my work. I start with 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. I skip this first double crochet because these 3 chains correspond to this first stitch, and into the next one, the second one, I make a double crochet. And when I make my double crochet, I need to pull up this loop a bit higher to make it a little bit more loose. And then into the next stitch, I make a double crochet again. And again, when I finish it, I need to remember to pull it a bit higher to make it a bit more loose. And that's how I'm going to continue crocheting. Here I crocheted half of the row number 3, and I already ran out of yarn, so the first skein is now finished, and I will be attaching the second skein here. And I'm actually gonna change the colors now. I have this other color, dark green, and I'm going to attach this yarn here. And I don't particularly care that the color change is gonna happen in the middle of the row. It's okay. This is going to be a freestyle blanket. Wherever the color change happens, so it will be. So here are the ends of the yarns, and I'm not gonna tie a knot here because that would be just too thick. But what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to use a sewing thread and stitch these yarns together, these yarn ends. I'm going to overlap them for about 2 inches and then just stitch them. And I don't have exact color match. Maybe I'll go with this dark or with this gray. This one definitely doesn't match, but I don't know, either one of these I guess would be fine. And I'm going to stitch the yarns there. So here is a piece of sewing thread. I folded it in half and then passed through the ear of the needle. Now I take the ends, I overlap them for about 2 inches and I pass the needle through both of them. Okay, I need to keep this tail up there. I pass it through the second one, and here is what I do now. Okay, and now I can stitch them some more. And just make a few more stitches to secure it, and then I make a little knot. And now I can cut off the yarn tail. No, not the yarn tail, the thread tail. Don't cut off the yarn tail. We're gonna need that attached. And now that the yarn tails are attached, I can continue crocheting, making my double crochets. Look at this stitch. The color change happened in the stitch, so half of the stitch is one color and half of the stitch is the other one. And now I continue crocheting with the darker yarn. And yeah, that's it. That's how I'm going to continue crocheting my blanket. Oh, and I need to remember to pull up this loop a bit higher, make it a bit more loose. Here I continue crocheting and I'm almost done with this second skein of yarn, and I came across this. So this is just a little knot, the knot that happened in the yarn skein itself, and as you can see it was quite loosely tied. So I'm going to stitch the yarn tails together just the way I did before, and in the same way as I stitched before, I'm going to stitch these ends of yarn together as well. And it doesn't even matter the color of your thread that you're using for, even if it's not perfect match, it's not gonna be noticeable. But stitching the end yarns like this first makes them more securely attached, because like I showed you, the knot in the skein wasn't that secure. But secondly, when you crochet, your fabric will not have that big lump. I highly recommend stitching them together like this. And again, I continue crocheting, and I'm doing it at my desk right now for the purpose of this tutorial. But it is much easier working this blanket sitting on the floor, having your legs crossed and having this piece on your lap. It is much easier to work it that way. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to finish crocheting this blanket, and then I'll show you the final result. And here it is. I think I did a pretty good job controlling my tension. The stitches are nice and even, and overall I like how this blanket turned out.